Episode 6 The Light Upstairs. When Claire Mercer inherited her Aunt Susan's old home in small town Windermere, she expected creaky floors and dusty rooms, and she more or less got what she expected. Her aunt had always been an eccentric woman, and she let that shine in her decor. At first, she laughed. The house was charming in its oddities. Antique wallpaper, clawfoot tubs, mismatched crystal doorknobs, the whole 9 yards. But the staircase on the second floor was an exception. The stairs led up to the attic loft. It wasn't whimsical like the rest of the house. It felt heavier. The door to the attic loft was a typical door with a plain brass knob. Claire had always been a quiet, emotionally reserved woman, but this door gave her pause, especially after receiving the letter from her Aunt Susan's lawyer. When the lawyer was going through the will, he had handed her an envelope and told her that it was in the will, that it was to be given to Claire after Aunt Susan's passing. The letter read, "Claire, welcome home. I'm sorry that we drifted apart these last few years. It was never my intention. Life, time, and silence have a strange way of slipping between people, but not even that could dim how much I have always loved you. You were the only one who ever truly felt like family. That is why I have left this house to you. It needs someone gentle in character, but strong in will. Someone who won't let the shadows in. Make it your own. Fill it with light and laughter again, if you can. But Claire, my dear, do not go into the attic when the light is on. Lock the door, ignore the whispers. Be well, my darling. Aunt Susan." Claire thought back to her days as a child, staying with Aunt Susan in the summer. She remembered having so much fun. Her aunt would tell her strange stories, but was always full of life. She would let Claire have sweets at night, and always had a smile. Claire loved those fond memories. She didn't remember this door as a child. Of course, now that she's thought about it, she stayed in one of the rooms on the first floor when she was a kid. She hadn't even been on the second floor. Now, she was kind of glad she hadn't. Claire didn't believe in the supernatural. She was practical and sensible, not at all like her aunt. Or, if she was honest with herself, she had changed since her childhood days. As she looked closer at the door, she could see slight openings all around the door. There was no light. "You really lost it in your old age, didn't you, Aunt Susan?" Claire mused to herself. "Time to see what's in there." She took the last few steps up and tried to turn the handle. Locked. "Guess I'll have to find the key." Claire didn't have any plans for the house. She was only planning on staying short-term while she went through the decades' worth of things Aunt Susan had collected, and it was a lot. "Well, first things first. I need to get some food in this house if I'm going to be staying here for a bit, and I should do a quick inventory on some hardware supplies if I'm going to fix anything," Claire thought out loud to herself. So, she got to work, making a list. As she was locking the front door, she heard someone. "Good afternoon." She turned, as one of the neighbors was walking by. "Hello," she replied with a wave and a smile. She got in her car and headed into town. First, she visited the local hardware store for supplies. The kind-faced elderly man behind the register smiled. "You're staying at Susan's place, ain't ya?" he asked, as he was scanning a paintbrush. Claire nodded. "How'd you know that?" she asked. "You look just like her," he said with a fond smile. "She left it to me," Claire said in a hint of sadness. He hesitated. "Well, your aunt was a lovely woman. She was always talking with folks and helping out where she could. But the last few years, well, she kept to herself. Folks started saying that house changed her." When Claire pressed him, he said, That's it. It's just that one day, she stopped coming around as much, wasn't as talkative with folks. So that's when rumors started. People saying the house changed her. Silly small town superstition. Claire thanked him and headed back to her car. The grocery store was the next stop, as she was getting hungry. Driving back to the house, Claire admonished herself for impulse buys at the grocery store. Never grocery shop when you're hungry, she said out loud. When she got back to the house, she made herself a sandwich and got to work. Cleaning and inventorying things in the house brought back memories of her childhood, along with fond memories of her eccentric aunt. She slept well that night and woke up refreshed. I don't think I've slept that well in a long time. She got up and made herself some coffee as she sat at the kitchen table, lazily watching a squirrel on a tree out the window. Well, back to it, I guess. She got back to work. In her aunt's room, she found an old jewelry box. She opened it, and it began to play a melody. Inside the box was a key. The key was an old-style key, like you'd see from one of those giant key rings from jail cells in the movies. This must be for the attic, she said. Now I can see what all the fuss is about. She headed up the stairs to the attic. It seemed dark. She took a breath and unlocked the door. She opened the door, not knowing what to expect. She stood there, looking into the dark attic. And, well, she couldn't really see anything. She felt on the sides of the wall until she found a light switch. She flipped it. Nothing. Of course, she muttered. She returned with a flashlight. Inside was a dusty attic space filled with boxes. Just what one would expect from a space like this. Well, that was anticlimactic, she said to herself. Just more stuff to go through later. She locked the door behind her and put the key back in the jewelry box. She headed back downstairs to continue her work. It was that night that the attic light came on for the first time. Claire was jolted awake by a soft melody. Slowly stepping into the hall, she followed the sound. In her aunt's room, the jewelry box was open. She closed the lid, and the melody stopped. I must have left it open, she said. Now I have to pee, she muttered. Walking down the hall towards the bathroom, she passed the staircase leading up to the attic door. She froze. Light could be seen around the edges of the door. What the hell? She whispered to herself. Was there someone in the house? She ran back to her room and grabbed her phone before running downstairs while calling 911. 911, what's your emergency? I think there's someone in the house, Claire replied, as she proceeded to tell the dispatcher what was happening. Claire waited outside for the police to arrive. They searched the whole house. They even used the attic key to check the attic. Nothing. They found no signs of anyone being in the house. Then how did the attic light come on? Claire asked one of the officers. I was the one that checked the attic. There wasn't a light on, he replied. The switch didn't even work when I tried it. Then how was the light on when I walked by, she asked. Maybe it's a loose wire somewhere. You should probably call an electrician in the morning. As of now, there's no one in the house or around the property. We'll have units patrolling the area, but you should be safe, he told her. Claire didn't sleep well the rest of the night, but she eventually fell back to sleep. The next morning, she called an electrician. She told him of last night's incident. Well, ma'am, I'll check it out for you, he said as he carried his tool bag up the stairs. While the electrician did his thing, Claire got back to work downstairs. A bit later in the day, the electrician found her. Ma'am, I don't know what you saw in the attic, but it wasn't a light, he told her. The switch doesn't work because there's no power running to the attic. It looks like it was set up for power, but the lines were never ran. But as I walked by, there was a light on in there. I could clearly see it around the door. Again, I don't know what you saw, but it wasn't the light in the attic. He paused. You ever read that book? Not amused, Claire thanked the man. As he left, she kept trying to figure out what it was she saw that night. That night, Claire woke again. She sat there in bed, trying to figure out what had woken her up. Soft at first, almost imagined, her name, spoken like a breath. Claire. Okay, I'm losing my mind, she said out loud. Now I'm hearing things. That freaking light better not be on. She got out of bed and crept down the hall barefoot. At the top of the stairs, light shone around the door. That's when she remembered the letter from her aunt, the one the lawyer had given her. To alleviate her building fear, she got angry. Stupid nonsense, she growled. She rushed down the hall to her aunt's room and opened the jewelry box. The melody began playing. She ignored it. As she grabbed the key, "Time to put an end to this," she said as she headed back down the hall. At the top of the stairs, she slowly slid the key into the lock and turned it. She felt the locking mechanism release and heard the audible click. She turned the doorknob and opened the door. It took her a second for her eyes to adjust, but when they did, she stood in shocked silence. "No freaking way," she whispered. Inside, she found the attic had been transformed. It wasn't dusty or cluttered, no cobwebs, nor storage trunks. It was her bedroom. Her bedroom. The same wallpaper from her childhood, her old twin bed, the blue comforter, her bookshelf with her favorite stories, all in the exact way she remembered it. Even her stuffed rabbit Jasper sat waiting on the pillow. Claire's breath caught. This isn't real. She stepped inside, trembling, drawn in by nostalgia and unease. Her heart pounded as she ran her fingers along the dresser, right where she had tripped the edge, falling off her chair as a kid. Suddenly, the light flickered, and she heard a slight creak from the door. She turned and froze. Standing in the doorway was herself, identical in every detail. Her face, her posture, even the small scar above her left eyebrow. But her double was calm, cold, smiling faintly. "You weren't supposed to come in," the other Claire said. Her voice was soft and firm. "She tried to warn you, and you still didn't listen." Claire backed up, shaking her head. What is this? What are you?" The double tilted her head. "You came to the light, just like she did, and the one before her. It is impossible to resist." Claire lunged for the door, but the double stepped back and closed it with a gentle click. The lock turned. "No!" Claire pounded on the door, screaming, "Let me out!" But the door wouldn't budge. The attic light dimmed. The air turned still. Downstairs, the other Claire moved through the house with familiar grace. She boiled water for tea, and then sat on the porch with Aunt Susan's old shawl wrapped around her shoulders. When a neighbor passed by and waved, she didn't wave back. She just watched them pass. From the attic, unseen behind the curtains, Claire watched through the window, trapped, screaming in silence. This has been Stories You Didn't Ask For. If you enjoyed this, then please like and subscribe, and check out one of my other creepy little tales.